Welcome to Popcorn History with the Freeborn County Historical Museum, Library, and Village. I'm Stephanie Kibler, director at the museum, along with Risha Lilienthal, coordinator of collections and exhibits, and Reggie Bauer, operations manager at Power 96. I'm starting this one, and I don't know how to jump into it, so I'm just going to jump into Baptists.
Let's just jump into it.
What?
Jump into
How
Baptists.
do you do a lead-in for Baptists? I'm actually going to tell the story of Reverend Hogan. Oh. Really written by Irv Sorensen.
Yeah.
With highlights and shadows in 1961. I love Irv's. Mm-hmm. Do you call this a cartoon?
Yeah, I call it little illustrations, little cartoon.
A historic cartoon, kind of. Mm-hmm. And he tends to jump around and have about 8 topics in each little card.
Yeah.
I found 3 cards on Reverend Hogan. I'm like, he must have really been fascinated with him. And then I started reading, and it was kind of interesting. So, the Baptist pastor who led the first Danes to Freeborn County was Reverend Hogan.
Interesting.
He first settled around Lake Michigan, and in the winter of 62 and 63, he worked in hospitals aiding the Civil War sick and wounded. His sweetheart came over from the old country, and they were married. They set out on a bridal trip with 3 brethren, Hans Svenstrup, Nels Larson, and Pete Peterson.
Pete Peterson.
I mean, I'm sorry, I lied. It's P. Peterson. I bet it was Pete Peterson.
It would have to be.
It might be Paul Peterson.
Pete Peterson.
I went to one of my teachers
Peterson.
at college was Paul Peterson.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was discovered by Prince. That's a whole nother thing.
Oh,
Prince
wow.
Peterson.
I like that. They were on the way to 3 new homesteads. After 27 days of travel, they arrived at the east shore of Lake Geneva. And on that same day was when Chief Indian Crow was killed a little north of there. They spent the first 3 days there and celebrated the 4th of July. They intended to locate near Fort Ridgely for some protection from the war and that was starting the Indian War. They and their animals were so exhausted from heat and travel. And as the war was raging and fire and murder along the frontier, according to Irv, the party took counsel and they decided to settle somewhere in the vicinity.
So they were like, look at all of this war and bloodshed. Yeah, let's settle right over here. You're going to get to that?
Man of God.
No,
right?
Okay.
What Irv put there was, what faith! Exclamation point. Haug commented, no better or more beautiful place for a home in this part of the world. There is timber, water, wildlife, and the best land in the Northwest. And that's been said not just about the Geneva Lake area, but also about areas of Albert Lea.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of writings on what a
the
Garden of Eden,
and,
really.
Yeah.
It had everything that somebody traveling and moving in, a homesteader, needed.
That's from that Des Moines Lobe Glacier.
That is. That's why we have good water.
Also prairie fires, but...
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
You can't win everything.
Listen to the next, 3 podcasts ahead. I'll talk about that.
We haven't done that one yet.
No,
I can't
we
listen.
haven't.
Coming soon.
The next day, he and his bride sailed across the lake in an old abandoned canoe they had found, and they decided to establish their home on the west shore of the lake. The rest of the party settled near them. These were the first Danes to settle in what is now Clark's Grove. There was work to be done. Reverend Hogan built a breaking plow. And that was how he ended his first
that first card
on Reverend Hogan. He picks it up again where he said his friends put their oxen together to pull Hogan's breaking plow, and the first acre of the land west of the lake was broken. Hogan made a return trip to his missionary headquarters in Chicago. In the fall, he came back to his homestead with another group of settlers. He organized a Danish Baptist church with 15 members. Brothers Svenstrup and L.P. Larson handled the Sunday school. So that was the first Baptist church here in Freeborn County, organized by Reverend Hogan. He goes on, fights booze with coffee. In Haug's early efforts against alcohol, he aided in the starting of the first Christian coffee house in Albert Lake. The coffee house was operated by Brother Colby. This venture cost Haug $70 in the help he gave it. Mr. Morin also gave liberal financial assistance in starting the coffee house.
Wait, William Morin?
It just says Mr., so I don't know, but I would guess. I cracked me up that $70 was liberal financial assistance. It provided a splendid meeting spot in Albert Lea for half-frozen farmers and their families. Later, the coffee house was operated by Colby's son-in-law and was known as Jorgensen's Bakery. Haug started the first Scandinavian grange. So I had to look that up. What's a grange?
I don't know. What's a grange?
Like LaGrange? I don't know.
It's a farmers association.
Oh.
I didn't know what that was.
Yeah,
I thought
I don't
that's
know.
interesting, a grange. So he started the first farmers association.
Wow.
He picked 40 of the best men from Baptist, Advent, and Lutheran churches. The purpose to better our condition and provide a good influence for young people by meetings, songs, lectures, good books, and debating.
Oh, I love that.
But nobody wants to debate anymore.
Oh, yes, they do.
No, they want to shout and argue.
No, some people really like debate.
Yes, but most people don't. We should start a debate team. We should have a museum debate team.
I know what you're doing.
I know she's baiting me to debate. She's trying to make me argue with her.
No debate.
Libraries
That's
gained
bait.
his attention next. The first one was set up for the Sunday school. He then established a library for the adults, particularly the young hired men of the community. He gave 36 of his best books and some money before he left. The library had 200 books, mostly in Scandinavian.
In Scandinavian? Like,
I'm guessing it was
the range, I guess.
I'm guessing it was the full range. Norwegian, Danish, probably. Swedish? Continue
Finnish?
next week, he says.
Oh, with the next card.
It will finish next week.
In 1878, the Farmers Insurance Company of Bath was fostered in the church. H.P. Jensen was the first president for the first 14 years. It spread over the county, insuring property for millions of dollars. The Farmers Mutual Livestock Association was also built up among his people and grew to have 300 to 400 members. It handled farmers' grain and livestock. The butter factory was the last project he urged on his people. He was persistent and had to do a lot of selling.
Okay.
He heard members say, "We may as well put it up or we'll never get peace from his butter preaching."
Oh, no.
That's in quotes. He encouraged P.L. Larson and L.P. Lawson to make a trip into Iowa. They found creameries, not Danish creameries. Finally, they found a factory to use as a model. When they returned to Clark's Grove, the butter factory was organized, construction was started, and equipment secured. The factory was a success. When Hoag returned for an anniversary, there were 26 butter factories in Freeborn County.
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of like butter and creamery production here.
Yeah. Reverend Hoag pointed out characteristics of these Christian Nordisk folk. No business was done on Sundays, and all business was conducted in the Nordisk language. Many factors contributed to this success story. He placed the church first and the greatest blessing to his people. The church held them together, comforted and cheered them during the difficult times. The breaking plow and the butter factory brought prosperity to these hard-working people. Perhaps no man has made more of a contribution to Freeborn County than Reverend Hoag. We still harvest the fruits of his efforts.
Wow.
I thought that was a really cool little series that he
Yeah.
did. And I didn't know who Hoag was
No, me neither.
till I read the cartoon.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I did have one little actual thing. It's not about Baptist, but it's about baptism.
Oh, okay.
In 1878, a local paper, baptism in Fountain Lake last Sabbath afternoon attracted as large a crowd of people as a horse race.
Oh, wow.
The bridge road by the mill was completely blocked up.
Yep. That's crazy.
Wow.
I thought that
A
was
horse
kind of,
race and
horse race and a baptism.
That's their metric of measurement.
right. Oh, wow. Okay. So I had to figure out where to go after you just said Baptists.
I don't know how you picked what you picked. but-
It was a weird jump because I went to pincushions.
Because you have to like walk around on pin cushions.
Oh no!
Pins and needles.
Pins and needles.
No. But yeah, I went to pincushions because I've been working on our Victorian home and we have a pincushion in there. And I love Victorian symbolism. And so pincushions have to do with evil spirits. And since Baptists are all kind of one of their defining reasons why they're called Baptists has to do with the Holy Spirit. And so I was like, let's talk about evil spirits. And then that goes to pincushions. So pincushions were really big in the Victorian time period. And over here, that was also a time when the arts and crafts movement was big, like, strong movement, and their importance was of nature as inspiration and the value of simplicity, utility, and beauty. So things that are pretty but can be used.
Okay.
And we, in our Victorian home parlor, have a slipper-shaped metal pincushion from 1900, around that time, and it was brought in by Mary King, who I've talked about in like a past podcast. She was a great big nurse in the area.
Yep.
And she would have...
Great big nurse.
Not physically.
She was a nurse who had a lot of impact in the
There
area.
you go. But she would have been about 13 when she had this metal pincushion in the Victorian time period. And so, you know, she was probably one who would have been doing little crafty things with pins and a pincushion. I don't know.
What kind of crafty things do you do with pins?
Well, embroidery, sewing.
That'd be needles.
Yeah, but you can,
Just gonna say.
you pin things, though, back with certain stuff.
Pin fabric
material,
together or
you know,
whatever.
yeah.
I was just trying to figure out how to use a pin to be crafty.
For pinning, for sewing.
Get into all sorts of mischief.
Pincushions date back in recorded history to the 16th century. They've been used in various forms since. They used to be rare commodities. They were hard
Really?
to come by. Yep, and they were valuable. 'Cause, initially...
How hard is it to find something to stick a needle into?
No, pins themselves, not pin
Oh,
cushions.
the pins themselves.
The
Okay,
pins
gotcha.
themselves. Yeah, they were usually put in small cases of wood, ivory, or metal.
Oh, I do. I have some little wood from
Like pin
great
holders?
grandparents, I believe, that you would put your
Yeah.
needles or your pins in. Yeah, they're kind of cool.
Huh.
But then with the rise of the Industrial Revolutions, they became much easier to access. And so the need to keep them that securely stored became less of an issue. So it was around that time that pincushions came into their own with unique designs and styles, and silver pincushions became especially popular because silver was also more readily available. So we have an example of that with our silver-shaped slipper pincushion. I had a little bit of Shatner in me there.
Yes, you did.
Popular designs included fruits, vegetables, shoes, pigs, and chickens.
Pigs.
Yeah. Stick a pin in a pig.
I'm gonna be on a mission. I want a pig pincushion.
Is that where the whole pin the tail on the donkey thing came from? Somebody thought, hey,
Maybe.
I don't know. During the Victorian era, pincushions were a collectible item, with the size and grandeur of the collection being an indicator of a woman's social status, which has to do, you know, with the whole how they did interior design being like the tell of how affluent you were, so you
Sure.
wanted to look as rich as you could.
So the more pig pincushions you had, the more prestigious you were.
Or the more ornate the pincushion, the pig pincushion. But that has to do a lot with the rise of the middle class, which I could go on and on about. But I'm not going to go into that. We're going to talk about tomato-shaped pincushions because
Interesting.
my mom has one of those.
yeah, that
The
originated.
little red with the green thread.
Yep. That originated in the Victorian era.
Really?
It was a frequent practice to place a actual tomato on the mantle of a new house.
Why?
Folklore of the time suggested that this would repel evil spirits and guarantee prosperity. tomatoes aren't in season year-round, so people improvised with tomato stand-ins, red fabric shaped after the lucky fruit, and stuffed with sawdust and placed on the mantle. These faux tomatoes provided a secondary use as a very handy place to store pins. And since that time, tomato-shaped pincushions have been exceedingly popular, with the nifty bonus of the strawberry attached, which is usually filled with emery powder for cleaning and sharpening pins.
I so feel like anybody who's manufacturing a tomato pincushion should be including that story.
Isn't that cool?
On a little card with every pincushion.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
That'll fool those pesky evil spirits.
Right now, somebody's getting out all of their tomato pincushions and placing them throughout their home.
Right.
I kind of anticipated you'd talk more on needles also, because pincushions also you put your needles in and
Yeah.
you thread the eye of the needle.
The eye. Oh, there we go. I was wondering how you got to your next point.
I popcorned over to eyeballs.
Yep.
That's absolutely what you want needles around.
Pincushions to eyeballs. You know when you pop a bowl of popcorn and you get those little ones that just pop in the bowl, and then you'll get one that might pop out of the bowl and land on the counter, and then you get that one that shoots by your ear like a missile and bounces off the refrigerator, and the next morning you find it in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
That's what pincushions to eyeballs is.
What
It's
a
the-
metaphor.
Well,
I like it.
so in 1897, while catching gophers one day last week, Ralph Mann, Fuller Mann's little boy, got a spear stuck in his right eye, which was completely put out. And the doctor was compelled to remove the eyeball. The little fellow is doing as well as can be expected.
As can be expected.
I would imagine.
Want another one?
Yeah. That was all for that?
That was all for that.
You're just telling me this little kid gets...
I'm popcorning.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the bowl now.
We're in a whole bunch
Just
of little pop. All right.
The remaining eye of Ray Blackmer is improving, and there are some hopes that it may be saved. He can distinguish light with it, but not objects. 2 grains of shot passed through the eyeball, and it is remarkable that it even retains its form.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
I was reading these, and I'm just like,
next
this is just bizarre. I don't have a lot that are like, ugh.
That's okay.
That's fine.
And in 1921, there are probably more artificial eyes in the world than there have ever been before. Yet so excellent is the workmanship used in their manufacture that they can very seldom be detected. The artificial eye, however, will not serve the wearer forever. There are certain orbital fluids which destroy the enamel, thus involving considerable expense for renewal. And I think that still is an issue with fake eyes.
Oh.
Pete's sister had a broom ball accident and lost an eye.
Oh,
so
really?
had a lot of conversation. She used to like to do eyeball tricks.
So my dad plays broom ball, first of
Yeah?
all. And I played it a little bit when I was in my early 20s. And I decided against it after I wound up taking one to the face. And I got I had a fat lip for a week.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've got pictures I'll have to show you afterwards. But it was something. And
It's dangerous.
it doesn't feel
Do
good.
people still play broom ball?
Yes.
Do they?
My dad, who is turning 51 in February, he still plays it. And he's
Wow.
one of the better players in the league.
Oh, that's interesting.
Somehow.
I didn't realize that was still a
Yep, very much
still
so.
a thing.
So-
Rochester has a league, and so does Minneapolis.
That's another thing that I don't know what it is. So.
It's like if hockey and lacrosse had a baby.
Ooh.
You run around
With a broom.
because
An actual
because
broom?
like a rubber broom. So it's called a broom. It's like this long metal pole with a rubber, not a flap, but it's a solid flat piece of rubber on the end of it. And
Like
you
a fin?
More like
yeah,
a spatula.
Kind of like a fin. Yeah, more like a spatula. And
Spatula ball.
And it takes place on an ice rink. But you don't have ice skates. You just have special shoes that you run around on the ice. It's so fun to watch.
Is it the same shoes for curling, do you think?
No, I don't think so. Because the curling, there's one is sticky and one is slidey with curling.
okay.
But with,
Oh, yes, because they...
yeah. But with broom ball, they're both slidey.
Oh, no.
And also the ball itself is like maybe it's 6 or 8 inches, and it's like a rubber ball, and you just hit that thing around with the brooms, and you try to get it into the goal, and whoever gets the most goals wins the game. You need to. It's so fun. You need to watch a game. Yeah, so write that down, please.
So back in 1923, going popcorning back to where I was at, Wolf Jewelry opened. So Clayton Wolf, jeweler and optometrist, opened his new store in its new location in the Bessesson Theater building Saturday, which was the Rivoli Theater. The store, though small, is handsomely furnished. Ooh. All the cases and woodwork is in mahogany, and the walls and ceiling in dove gray. The optical department is located in a balcony in the rear of the store, which is reached by a winding stairway.
Ooh.
Fancy.
So he was an optometrist and also a jeweler, because you think he would want people to look at the sparkly good things. Pretty things.
Make
so
sure they could see. So he fixed the eye.
Clarity.
Yeah.
And then you could go in. We had a lot of optometrists in Albert Lea back in the day, back in the early 1900s. Like 10 or 12 of them that popped up. It's kind of an interesting thing to read, to learn about, because it's one of those things we don't have anything on exhibit. Well, I guess we do, but it's not well defined. Right. We'll be working on that. So we really haven't delved into that much. So it's kind of interesting to check on some of this. And then there was some talk about the eyes of the Army are of glass. Army and Navy exhibit will include specimen of American-made glass from which telescopes, rangefinders, and other important optical instruments of precision are made. And that came to the Freeborn County Fair. So the Army actually brought and they talk about one of the exclusive producers of this was Bosch & Lomb, which is still a company today that does like eye solution and contact lenses. Yeah.
That's cool.
Back in I didn't write the date, but I want to say it was like 1924.
Wow.
Almost 100 years ago.
Crazy. Mm-hmm. Thought it was just cool that the Army was bringing in to display their telescopes and all of that nonsense around eyeballs.
Oh my gosh. Then I had to figure out where to go for my eyeballs.
I think you took the easy way out, if you want my opinion.
I did.
She totally took the easy way out.
I went to alarm clocks.
Where would you have gone from eyeballs?
Right? Where did you go? I went to alarm clocks, specifically a glowing alarm clock, because you have to open your eyes in the morning to see your alarm clock, and you're looking at
alarm clocks.
We have a glowing alarm clock in collection.
Do we?
Mm-hmm. It's also a traveling alarm clock that the Jemmings, Roger and Mary, would often take with them camping. It's like a tan orange case that it kind of pops up.
Oh, I love those. They pop up and the case is like the
it's the little prop. Yeah. The numbers and hands are a light green color and they glow in the dark.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's still an analog clock. It's not digital.
Right.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
The hands glow in the dark, but once the lights are out, it'll only glow for so long, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Which, actually, this is the thing I told you that something for popcorn history kind of gave me a little bit of a heart attack.
Oh, boy.
That was this one. Because as I was looking into it, I looked, well, when was the first alarm clock made? It was 1787 in the United States by Levi Hutchins of New Hampshire. I was like, okay, that's cool. But, okay, when did we first get glowing alarm clocks? And, so that was in the early 1900s, but the paint used to make it glowing was radium.
What could possibly go wrong?
So I'm sitting here breathing deeply, trying to calm down, thinking, oh my gosh, did I accession something that's radioactive and is going to kill us now?
Well, it wouldn't kill us. You're the only one who handled it.
Yeah, but it's on exhibit.
But it's locked in a room.
Yeah, but radiation goes through.
The room has to be lined with lead or something.
And I'm looking up and I'm like, how can you tell? How can you tell? And what like it kept telling me the only way you can get it is having that little like scanner thing do the whole like the clicky thing. I don't remember what it's called.
The Geiger counter?
Yes, the Geiger counter. I'm like, we're not going to get one of those in.
My FBI agent is really confused by my Google searches. How do I know if my alarm clock is radioactive?
Oof. Yeah, I went on a whole like search to figure out if this was radium.
I think you came in my office.
When? What?
You made a comment in my office about having a heart attack.
Yes,
and
I did.
radium.
Did I say radium?
I think you did.
Oh,
and I
okay.
just kind of thought, what is she
like, what?
going on about now?
But not since the 1960s has radium been used.
So this clock is not a 19th.
I don't know.
Well, it's got to be such a small amount of radium.
Right.
Radium
but
must.
still.
Radium must wear.
It takes hundreds of years for it to lose its radioactivity. The most famous of the radium stories was the 40 women who worked for Radium Dial Company in Ottawa, Illinois, and they died from radium poisoning because they were like twirling the brushes in their mouth to get it wet,
geez.
you know, so they were ingesting it.
Ingesting it. Oh.
Which they changed the name from radium dial to luminous process, which kind of makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, it takes hundreds of years for radium.
Radium's half-life is 1,600 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So how much radium does it take you?
It's like you absorb it like you absorb calcium. So it thinks it's calcium, and so that's how it absorbs into your body. It takes years, I think, for it to actually affect you.
But I meant how much. I mean, there's got to be certain amounts of radium. Like, it can't be like a pin drop of radium will kill you.
No, right.
I'm seeing...
But I'm guessing it's less than a gallon of radium.
Yeah.
I would think so. Oh boy, what did I stumble across here? The Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, U.S. Public Health Service, in collaboration with the EPA. This is a 145-page PDF.
Oh, wow.
Let's
see if I can find...
You were talking about Risha's FBI agent.
Right, yeah.
Concern.
Why is the radio station looking into radium?
But I have to say, it is not radium. I confirmed that.
How did you confirm that it's not radium?
Because radium, the paint will, after like 5 years or so, if it's radium paint, the glow will go away. The radioactivity is still there, but the glow will go away. I took this little clock and I put it in the sun for a little bit, not so much that it's going to like deteriorate, because that's not what we do with collection items.
Said, what?
And then I took it away and like, did my whole little like cup my like thing around it. I'm like,
because if it's radium, I want to put it right against my eyeballs.
Right.
Well, I had to make sure. And it did glow. So if it charges in the sunlight, it's not radium. It's it's like fluorescent kind of paint. Gotcha. So yeah, we don't have a radium clock on exhibit.
Right.
I had, again, a mini heart attack. But it was used in like the 70s through the 90s camping by a Freeborn County family.
Huh.
But that's the
and
process.
They're still with us today?
They are still with us
yes,
today.
They are.
That's the process I had to go through to figure out if our collection in the museum was safe and we were
my
being safe for
goodness.
everybody.
Do you know what would be cool?
What?
For Halloween, if somebody could make glow-in-the-dark popcorn balls.
Ooh, yes.